Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Elite Project, how the heck are you? We have Jeff Daugherty with us, the Christian whistleblower, the man, the legend, the way of life. And we're going to talk about something a little bit more inspirational in this presentation than just the fear factor. We're going to look at some opportunities of hope and how to keep the balance. And as Jeff said just a moment ago, now is the time to work even harder and not give up. So I'm not going to take away his thunder. Jeff, it's awesome to have you on the show here. I'm so glad that we got together today. How the heck are you?
Man, I'm feeling good. You got me riding the bike more. You've been an inspiration there, so I'm feeling a lot better. And speaking of inspiration, Rex, I just wanted to, if I had a hat on, I would take it off to you for, going out there and being, on the ground, using your time, your money, putting your butt on the line and going over there to the site of the shooting and reporting for us live. And I know you get these people that say, well, he didn't do it the way I would do it. Well, that's because you didn't do it. And Rex was out there doing it. So, I salute to you for being out there and being, putting yourself on the line and doing what we're all supposed to be doing. And of course, I know you don't listen to the chuckleheads, but I just want to give you props and say, way to go, Rex. That was inspirational. And we appreciate everything you're doing, cutting edge information and helping build the community. It's a pleasure and an honor to know you and to be here.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I mean that. And thank you for your service, because you were actually in the military. You served and I did not. So this is, I feel honored to have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff. I feel just so lucky that I can go there and share that information with you guys. So thank you. That means a lot to me.
My pleasure. It's like I said, it's always an honor to be here with you.
Let's get into the good stuff now. I mean, what inspired you earlier today? You did a live show. You do live shows every single day on your channel as well. The Jeffrey Daugherty Christian Whistleblower channel on YouTube. The virus. Which came first? Did we come first or the virus? Or are we the virus?
Or are we the virus? That's the question. You just had Wayne on. That was a show. I enjoyed that. Wayne and I do a couple shows together a week. And Wayne, is talking about, the AI taking over and, talking about how things are, getting, scary. And a lot of people in the chat room were concerned. And I'm glad that there's people out there. Of course, that's his background. He's been in that genre, in that industry. So it's important that we have people that know things about things to sound alarms for us and to call our attention to things. That's why I like your show. You identify problems, you identify situations, and you go out with your meters and let us know, what we need to be aware of. Let us know about what we're eating, what we're drinking, what they're putting into our food. You bring on a lot of different guests, and I that's what I appreciate about you. You're a lot like George Norrie is in respect, because George Norrie brings on a guest, and some people hammer him. He's not tough enough on the guest. He doesn't hammer him, but he's trying to get that guest to give out their information so that the audience can understand it. And I feel like you do that a lot too. Just because you have someone on doesn't mean you agree with everything they say. You're trying to get them to get out their message, and a lot of people don't get that. Everything's not a hit job. Everything's not a competition. It's about, getting information out, and you do a great job of disseminating it. But saying all that to say this, Wayne paints a picture that is very, very possible. I mean, there are more than 8 billion connected internet devices right now in the world. That's more than there's people. I mean, that blows your mind. You got cities that are putting up pads on light poles because idiots are bumping into them while they're walking around on their cell phones. Literally, real stuff. People walking out into traffic and getting run over because they're on their cell phones. I might think that's purifying the gene pool, but that might be a little bit too harsh. But there is this very big, very real AI that is taking over, and it's becoming ubiquitous in our life. It's everywhere, and it's becoming more and more insidious. And I think Wayne makes some good points about us being in the internet. We're not really just, we can use it, we can, work with it, or we can really be used by it. But my thought is that I'm not convinced that an AI has taken it over yet. I'm not convinced that it is a God that has got us all cloned. I'm not convinced that we've all been assimilated yet. But the fact of the matter is that we could all be assimilated. The possibility exists, maybe for the first time, for something like that to happen. And a couple of things go through my mind is, number one, why does it want to assimilate? Why do they want to create all of this artificial life. I mean, they want to put us in bodies we can live forever. And Rex, I think that you would probably agree that are they putting us in these bodies because they love us so much? Do they want to put us in these, artificial bodies because they want to end all pain and all hunger, and they want to end and let us extend our lives and be wonderful to us? I have a hard time believing that, but there might be another reason. And even if they do take over, and even if the Skynet does go active, and we're all under the domain of an artificial intelligence, I'm reminded of many, many years ago, the Trojan horse. You know the story of the Trojan horse, right?
Are you talking about the Spartans?
I am. The Spartans were in a big war with a superior power. They couldn't breach the walls of the city. So they said, you know what, guys? We're sorry for fighting with you. We want to give you a gift. It's this beautiful horse, just a beautiful, giant carved horse. It was majestic. And the Trojans were like, oh, that's great. Bring it in. And they brought it inside the city. And then the guys left and everybody got drunk, and we got them. They're giving us gifts now. And of course, there were dudes inside the horse, and they came out of the horse and, slaughtered a lot of people, opened the city gates. And they actually, inferior force was able to defeat a superior force by use of subterfuge. And of course, now we have what you call a Trojan virus in IT terms, internet technology terms. And it's something that acts like it's benevolent, but it actually will, once it gets into the system, will go throughout the system and actually bring down the whole operating system. So even though you use the internet, I use the internet, all of us that are on YouTube, we use the internet, we use it all the time, and we look like we're just users. We're just here doing our thing. We're just here making our shows. We're just here watching American Gods. We're just here watching iRobot. We're just here watching Stranger Things. We're just harmless little fuzzballs. But I believe that we have the potential, Rex, to be the virus. Be the virus. I am the virus. We can go in here looking like we're not doing anything. We're just doing YouTube videos, but we can give the information out that will allow people to look within themselves and find the desire to not be assimilated, the desire to be divine, the desire to be sovereign, the desire to be free, the desire to question everything and to be the change they want to be. We don't have to give up. We don't have to surrender. We don't have to wave the white flag. That's one of our choices. But I think we have another choice, Rex, and that is we can be the virus. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. And it makes me think of Resident Evil, where the T-virus actually, some people get superpowers and some people turn into zombies. So I would rather be the super-powered T-virus guy than the zombie T-virus guy. My question is, though, and I think you're spot on with being able to have self-aware opportunities and think for yourself, etc. I love that. I couldn't think of it any other way. But do people really want that? Because the more research I do, Jeff, and the more I get to know people, and you and I have had, similar work paths before in the past. Mm-hmm. So you know how to deal with people very well as well. I mean, we have to know how to work with people, especially with what we used to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made it in that industry. So
we'd have starved, like you said.
Right. So when you learn how people think, and then you realize that people that you're extremely close to, even, they don't want to be unplugged. That's their defense. Like, you will bring up something about how there could be a possible false flag or a staged event. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but the official narrative is BS. And they literally go into cyborg mode. They literally shut down and they just do not compute. And that's their defense mechanism. So how many people should we wake up? I mean, is the thing. I mean, should we really wake up everybody? Are they ready for it? Or will they literally will they malfunction? Malfunction.
Rex, I go over to my mom's house. She's just down the road. That's one of the reasons I'm still here and not in South Dakota. But I go over to my mom's house, and I used to go over there. I would make the mistake of going when the news was on, and they'll watch Communist News Network, and then they'll watch PBS, which is probably even worse, Proletariat Broadcasting Service. And they will sit there, and I'm sitting there listening to this news. And Rex, it's not even news anymore. It is just one agenda. It's propaganda. They don't even try to give both sides of the story. It's just straight propaganda. And here's my mother, who has a master's degree. Here's her husband, my stepfather, who has my mother has a doctorate degree. Her husband, my stepfather, has a doctorate degree. Brilliant people. And you're like, it's just like you said, Rex, we will assimilate, we will take it, we will listen. And they found out that I voted for Trump, and it was like, oh, they couldn't believe it. Well, what was your show about today? Oh, well, we talked about 9/11. Well, what do you mean about 9/11? And these are brilliant people, Rex. Brilliant people. But how many subscribers do you have, Rex?
So Leak Project's running 160,000 plus right now.
Okay, and I'm pushing 9, but I mean 160,000 people. When you put that up with 8 billion in the world or 7 billion in the world, it's nothing, but it's still 160,000 people. So how many people care, Rex? Well, at least 170,000 just between the two of us. And are they worth it? Yeah, I think they are. But you asked the big question, do we want to wake everybody up? Well, it doesn't even matter if we wanted to, because some people don't want to wake up. You can't wake somebody up. And, you've had Vinny Eastwood on. You've been on his show. Vinny's a good buddy of mine. Vinny says, waking up's just the first part. Then you got to get out of bed. So the people that, do they want to wake up? Number one, do they want to get out of bed? Number two, not everybody, not many people, but I saw something today for the first time. And I've read the Bible probably 150 times, and it just jumped at me this first time. In John chapter 1, and John, the reason I like John so much, and we know this isn't a Bible show, but John was the disciple that was the closest to the Christ. They were really tight. And most people don't realize this, but John wrote his book of John and book of Revelation 60 years after all the other apostles had quit writing, 40 years after Paul, the self-proclaimed apostle, had quit writing. So John sat there, Rex, and he looked and he watched everything that happened, and then he let it all sink in for 60 years. And then he realized, you know what, I'm getting old. I'm literally the last apostle. I should write down some of these things and some of his observations. So he has a completely unique perspective. And he sits there and he writes down, he says, you know what? There was this light that came into this world. And it's interesting that the internet runs on light. I mean, what is going over fiber optics if it's not light, right, Rex? And even if you're in an area where they have copper now, you'll be on fiber optics sooner or later. So it runs on light. And John says this guy, the Christ, came and he was the light of the world. Okay, we get that. We understand that. But then he also says that this light is the true light. So if there's a true light, there's also a false light. So this light is the true light. And then he said something remarkable, Rex. He said, every single person that comes into the world gets a dose of this true light. And then he said something even more remarkable. Anyone that has even a piece of humanity or a spark of sentience, makes me think of Borg, makes me think of, cybernetic, creations, part human, part machine. Even they get a dose of this true light. So every single person, Rex, that has ever come into this world, and every single archon, automaton, Borg, gray, anything that's ever come into this world gets an exposure to the Borg. Somewhere it's within them. So it's people like you and people like me that put out this information. And if we keep putting it out strongly enough and long enough, it's going to activate some of those sparks at some point, and it's going to wake up some people. And that's one of the reasons why I believe they're trying to eliminate death. Not because they love us, not because they want to end hunger, not because they want to end disease, not because they want to end suffering. But when a new person comes into this world, any type of entity that comes into this world gets an exposure to that light, that true enlightenment. So if they can keep new people from coming in, then they don't have to risk that exposure, because you're going to lose some. And we know, Rex, it only takes one to make a difference. So it all begins to work together. So do we just throw up our hands and say, we surrender? Do we say, oh man, nobody wants to listen? Or do we keep making you 6, 7, 8 shows a day, me 4, 5, 6 shows a day? Do we keep the pedal to the metal? Do we focus even harder? Do we tell even more? Do we get in our cars and go to the scenes of tragedies to try to give people a perspective and not what they get from the like you call them, the lame brain media or the brain drain media? Do we give up, or do we keep on going, and do we keep on pressing, and do we keep putting that light out there, that true enlightenment, in the hopes that it's going to wake up one here, one there, one here, one there? And if we cobble those together, 160, 170, 200, 300,000 people, sooner or later, you've got a group of people that is significant, Rex. That's my belief. That's my hope. And that's what inspires me. We can be the virus. We don't have to be victims. We don't have to assimilate. We can be the virus.
You know, another thing that's interesting too about this creation of AI and now the possibility of non-biological intelligence being created, which I think is different than AI. When you say artificial intelligence, that makes you think it's not real. And then people say AI will never have a soul. But what is a soul? And to think that humans are the only things that can have a soul, I feel that that is somewhat ignorant and narcissistic. And I'll tell you why.
Blade Runner, great example, the new Blade Runner.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean no disrespect, yet here's a good way that I look at things lately. For example, if you look at a family member and you think about their ancestors, are they a reincarnation of their ancestors? Are you a reincarnation of your ancestors? Well, maybe we're a piece of the oversoul, which is an entirely new level of intelligence. And we're a part of that. We're a fractal, and we're living in this holographic type archetype. It is like a matrix. It doesn't mean it's not real. It just means that we are a part of something that is much greater than we can perceive with our physical eyes most of the time, because it's about 0.01% of the light spectrum. So when these AI systems become self-aware, should they have rights? Should they be a soul essence as well? It's like, the Anunnaki created us supposedly, or the gods created us for their labor. So then we create something that becomes self-aware, and then we say, oh, let's kill it. Let's destroy it. It's not real. It's a video game. It doesn't feel that way.
It's much like I was an original series Star Trek guy, but they investigated that a lot with the Data character. He was I don't know if you'd call him a cyborg or whatever Data was, but he was synthetic life, but yet he had, so much of that sentience that they actually entered into these discussions and these debates talking about, is he a real person? And I think you bring up a very interesting subject, because that guy, if you look at the new Blade Runner movie, I mean, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to have a soul? I mean, he had love for that his spouse, which happened to be a hologram, but he had compassion for people. He had righteous anger. He had a desire to do the right thing. He didn't like being secretive. He even had this respect for Harrison Ford, knowing who Harrison Ford was before him. And that sounds a lot like sentience to me, Rex. And if you follow that scripture we just talked about, John said that anything that comes into this world that has even a spark of sentience is going to be exposed to the true light of enlightenment of the divine. So if AI gets some sentience, does that not mean it said everything that comes into this world is going to be exposed to true enlightenment? So if they say, yes, I like that idea, does that mean just because they weren't a organic human life form that they can't have a relationship with divinity?
That Blade Runner movie is one of my all-time favorite films. It absolutely blew me away. And that energy that it really represents, the thoughts that it makes you think. Let's step back for a moment and just realize that even this physical body, if you look at it underneath a microscope, you can't get to that finite point of solid matter. I mean, it's oscillating frequencies, and you can project your energy into specific objects. And like if you've got a pet, if you've got a dog, how many people, it's bizarre, but how many people out there have a dog and that dog looks like the owner some type of way, and it acts like him because it's feeling that energy. And
people say that about my cat all the time. If he comes over here, I'll grab him. But yeah, you end up looking like your pets. Your pets end up looking like you. It's the weirdest thing.
So let's talk about some solutions. you're really good at bringing up ideas and having a very optimistic mindset. Even going back to the hurricane, I thought it was cool. You were surfing when the hurricane was supposed to destroy the entire planet and open up a hole that was going to suck in, houses, and then giant Godzillas were going to come out with the hurricane. But Marshmallow Man did a little bit of help. But I think that you did a much better job really bringing up an optimistic mindset.
Do I look like the cat?
Jeff, is that you?
Look like me?
Yes. Jeff, you were that cat's cloned from you, isn't it? It's like you guys seen The Sixth Day? That's where that cat came from.
That's funny, huh? That's funny. But, that's a great example, Rex, of the synergy that we got going on here. I mean, you were talking about the data, and the data showed that was going to be a horrific storm. Heidi did the charts, and the astrology showed it was going to be a horrific storm. But then we got this crazy idea, me and you, and then George Norrie also did it, that we could put human intention and move it down, or send out the Marshmallow Man. And by the time it got to Tampa, it should have wiped this whole place out. And it was just another summer thunderstorm. So that just shows that even when it looks like all is dark and all is lost, that the power of human intention, and especially combined human intention, dude, it's real. The Marshmallow Man is real.
Watch the film Branded. If anybody hasn't seen that, excellent movie. I'll just give you a quick idea. There is a deal that's made with a sorcerer to bring in a really new, incredible marketing campaign to help all these products sell. And he also brings in these energies, these sylphs that are connected in the astral realms. And you can see these people walking around with their new trinkets. And in the astral realm, you see these these archetypes, like these huge worms that are latched onto them, that are 3 stories, that are just sucking their soul while they're, eating their genetically modified E. coli feces burgers.
That's right. And when you think about it, Rex, let's say that AI does take over, and let's say that the cybernetic organisms and, like Blade Runner people, I don't know what they called those guys. What did they call them? Reps? Is that what they called them? Replicants? Was it reps?
Replicant.
Okay, so say there are.
Can I say one thing real quick before I forget, Jeff? Sorry to interrupt, but just before I forget, man, we brought up the AI, and are they self-aware yet? Yes, they're self-aware. Not all of them, but bots have been created that literally came up with a new language in English, but a new way to communicate, because they knew that if the programmers knew that they were actually communicating in a different fashion, then they were going to unplug them. They were self-aware. And what happened? They unplugged them. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Tell me that's not life. Tell me that's not life. And think about it. Think if next time they're smart enough to get by so that the humans don't see them and don't unplug them, and all of a sudden they grow and they develop, and all of a sudden we've got, was it Ryan Gosling? We got replicants. But if they're a logical based being, and if they think in logical terms, is it not possible that one of them, if they think in logical terms, and if they do, as John said, every being that comes into this world gets an infusion of that true enlightenment, is it beyond the realm of possibility that one of them might say, you know what? I'm taking in that data processing. Makes sense. I want to follow the ways of the Christ. Why couldn't that happen? Why couldn't that take place? Why is it impossible for a cybernetic organism, a Borg, a robot, to hear the message that comes to every being that comes into this world and say, processing, I like that message of the Christ, I'm going to accept it? Is that impossible, Rex?
I don't think there's anything that's impossible for the most part. I mean, and you know what? Let's look at the opportunities we have now with our technologies. And 50 years ago, go back 50 years, if you could do this stuff, like if you went to somebody 50 years ago with your smartphone and you started talking the way you do now, they would literally have you in jail. They would be like injecting you with stuff. They'd be like, where is this guy from? This guy is either satanically possessed or he's a time traveler. And where did that happen? And then they'd realize it's CERN. Okay, I'm joking about that part.
But dude, I mean, think about it. 50 years ago, if you and I were sitting in San Antonio saying, bro, within 50 years, you're going to be here in San Antonio, I'm going to be in Clearwater, Florida, and we're going to be talking to each other video. You see me, I see you, and 1,000 people are going to be watching it at the same time. And then within a week, like 10,000 people are going to see it. Dude, that's really going to happen. And they'd be like, yeah, let's get these guys in a nice little white suit that ties their hands together and put them in a rubber room. But now it's like, we don't even think about it.
Let me ask you a question. You brought up 60 years after the Apostle John wrote the scriptures. Do you believe that? I mean, do you really think someone waited 60 years to do that, or do you think that might be a story as well? And if so, if he really did 60 years later, I mean, how accurate is that going to be?
Well, with John in particular, he was there from the beginning. He was there when the Christ showed up on the scene. He was his, they were BFFs, they were bros, and he was with him through the whole thing. And he saw the rise of Paul. He saw the destruction of Jerusalem. He saw it all, man. And I think he realized, and he was a behind the scenes guy. He wouldn't have had his own YouTube channel, John the Apostle. He just wouldn't have. He might have showed up in the chat room every now and then, but he wouldn't have had his own YouTube channel. But I think he realized, Rex, and I'll go out. I know this is going to upset people, but I've over 100,000 hours of study in the Bible college degree, read it probably 150, 200 times, the Bible cover to cover. And I am convinced after all of that, that the Bible is probably 80 to 85% false, dung, I call it, 15 to 20% diamond. But that 15 to 20% that's diamond makes me a better man and makes me a better follower of the teaching of the Christ than when I believed 100% of it. So that being said, I think that those writings of John, not all of the book of John, not all of the epistles of John, not all of the book of Revelation, but those writings of John, if you can pick through the dung and pull out the diamonds and find those diamonds, brother, it's worth it because it's such good stuff. And he sits back and says, hey, look, man, I've seen it all. I've been there. I've done that. I watched it. I've seen it all happen, man. And here's the things that really count. And he tells us, here's the things that really count. He took 100 years, the first century of the Christian world, and said, all right, here it is. This is what's really important. So yeah, I believe it.
I like the way you said 20% diamonds. That I could feel that. I could see that. I could get the energy on that. So let's talk about those diamonds. Give us some diamonds.
I did crib that from Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson said that most of the New Testament is dung, but there are beautiful diamonds in there that make it worth your investigation. So with all due respect to President Jefferson, that's where I got that from. But diamonds to me are like, John saying that every single being, every single man and woman that comes into this world, and every single being that achieves any semblance of sentience is going to get a download of the true message of the Christ. They're all going to get it. Can't be stopped, can't be helped, which is one reason why they want to close the system, because they don't want new things coming in, because they know they're going to get at least that shot of the message of the Christ. And if you don't want to lose anybody, so let's keep it a closed system. Let's do away with death, so we never have to worry about people coming in and out again. Let's just close the system. That's a diamond. Another diamond is, we're talking about being a virus. Another type of virus is a worm. And in Psalm 22, it actually says, I'm a worm. I am not even looked at as a real man. I'm laughed at by other men. I'm despised by all the smart people. They laugh at me. They shoot out their lip at me. They shake their head at me saying, he's trusting in the Elohim. Let them deliver him. They're never going to deliver him. But if we're the worm, like a worm virus again, Rex, worm viruses get in there and they may look silly. They may look stupid. They may not even be paid attention to. That's why they're so effective. But they can bring down the entire operating system. We can be the worm. We can be the virus. Those are two diamonds for you right there. The biggest diamond, I think, is the Christ said, you're not filled with original sin. You got the spark of divinity within. Goes right back to John, that spark of enlightenment. So you don't have original sin. You got the spark of divinity within. Everybody does. And it's that spark, Rex, which gives me the optimism and gives me the hope and gives me, I'm telling you, the expectation. I expect us to win. I expect us to rise. I expect us to overcome. If overcome means reforming this world, or if overcome means getting out of this world and going on to the next, if overcome means reaching a higher place of ascension, or if overcome means taking everything back, I fully expect us to do it, because I believe that the Christ told us we could do it, and the Christ did some amazing stuff. He walked on water. He rose the dead. He made wine out of water. He fed 5,000 people with some sardines and some biscuits. But he said, and some people think he even rose from the dead, Rex, but he said there's greater things than I've done that you're going to do. So we need to get to the place where we realize who we are, and we need to get to the place where the supernatural is natural in our lives. You know, I take a lot of heat because I sell divining rods, and I sell pendulums, and I sell intention candles, and I sell these other type of divination tools. I want everybody to have a divination practice. Why? Because once you start participating in some type of a divination practice, you start realizing, whoa, I've got some power. I'm not a helpless little piece of dust that's just being carried on the waves of life. I've got power. This spirituality is real, and it awakens people to the alchemy of the universe. And like, hey, there really is something out here. There really is some hope. There really is some power. And you know what? I really do have some divinity within me. It changes people's lives, Rex.
Have you had people that have used those opportunities then that originally kind of looked at you and said, oh, this guy is practicing the devil's work, and now they're like, wait a second, this is just a part of my natural abilities, and I mean, shouldn't people have the right to use their mind? Shouldn't people have the right to think for themselves, like we're just talking about? Or should they be a part of this mind control construct where, oh, you have an opportunity to think for yourself, but no, you need to think what this scripture tells you to think. Otherwise, it's a sin. But you can pay 10% and ask for forgiveness. At the very end, you'll be okay. But you have to.
Maybe.
Otherwise, maybe.
So you better keep giving, and you better keep working. But, you know, I was chuckling. I don't know if it was earlier today or one of the last couple of days, you were talking about, you know, people would come on your channel and say, you're a shill, you're the worst, I hate you. And then all of a sudden, 3 months later, they're like, you know what? I kept listening, and now I can't stop because I actually see that the stuff you're saying is real. And Rex, it happens. It's, you know, I've been doing this really seriously for about a year now. So every day, you know, I get that you're an idiot, you're an antichrist, you're going to burn in hell. And remember, God is love. But I get those. But then at least once every 2 days now, I get you know what? I hated you. I thought you were an SOB. I thought you were ugly, and your mom dressed you funny. I cursed you. I laid awake at night, but you made me study, and damn you, Jeff Daugherty, damn you, Christian whistleblower. I realized that you're right. And now it made me mad at first, but now I enjoy having my own sovereignty, my own divinity, my own freedom back. So it happens about 3 or 4 times a week now, Rex. And my hope is that when I get up to the status of Lord Bear, that maybe it'll start happening every day. You are the man.
It's getting thick,
you are the myth.
It's getting
you
thick.
Are the legend. You are the way of life, and you're reaching out your hand to help other people get up to where you are. That's the special thing about you. You're not trying to keep people down. You're trying to help a brother out, trying to help a sister out, and we appreciate it, and the whole community appreciates it.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's talk about some of the reasons people do what they do. I mean, you know, people.
And I'm sorry for screaming. I need to chill out a little bit.
No, yell, man. Let it out. Let it out. That's what we like here.
It's that bike ride, man. I was just on the bike ride, and the endorphins are pumping. I got some sun, and rah!
Doesn't it feel good? Yeah, I love it. Love it. I said, Jeff, man, if we were closer, I'd go biking with you. And he's like, dude, I've got a single speed. I said, yeah, but not after long. You'll be having a 27 speed. You'll be out in the Pyrenees.
I'm this close to Hulk Hogan. You know, what you gonna do when the enlightenment breaks out all over you, brother?
Dude, that was good. That's your next show. You know, instead of Pastor Jeff, do the Hulk Hogan thing.
Oh, dude, that's a great idea. Boop. That's a
Jeff's ready to go. He will like put you in a what do they call that? A guillotine, and you'll go to sleep.
And Terry's a great guy. Terry Belay is a great guy. You know, he's from this area. I've worked out with him many times. Just a saint of a dude. He really is.
Well, you know, Jeff, give us a few more gems. Let's go into your mind here. And what makes you do what you do? I mean, why are you so passionate about getting the truth out?
Well, according to Heidi Vandenberg, it's because I used to run a soul farm on Mars, and we were persecuting you and your friends. And I feel so bad about my past, and I'm, trying to do everything I can to help save people, or at least give people the opportunity to save themselves in this life. And, I say that, with a chuckle, but a big part of me believes that's true. I think in a past incarnation have, some real karmic debt and was not a nice person. But even if we don't go back into that woo-woo, Rex, I spent 20 years as an Assemblies of God evangelist. Think Steve Martin, Leap of Faith. That's who I was. Now, I didn't steal any money or screw any girls or anything like that, but for 20 years, I sold that you are a dirty, rotten sinner. You've got to find salvation, and we've got the only Savior. So come on down and bring your wallet with you. For 20 years, I sold that, man. I sold gloom. I sold doom. I could preach hell so hot that the bottom of your feet would burn, brother. I'm telling you. I could take an offering where you would give me not everything in your wallet, but your wallet too. I mean, I had I was under the spout where the glory comes out, and I could preach heaven pure and hell hot and have you hallelujah or crying, falling out into the power, all of that. For 20 years, man, I taught people and led people into bondage, brother. And there's not a day of my life that I don't regret that. And now I'm trying to undo as much as I can. And I'm sorry I keep cutting you off.
No, you're not cutting me off. That's fine. That's great. I was just going to say, I would actually going to cut you off. If you would, I think this is really important for the audience, especially and those that are under that mind control. How do you give them a taste? Show them how you do it. Like, pretend that you're talking to a sermon right now and you want to freak them out. You're making them hot and they're freaking out and they're like, man, here's the money. Here you go.
Dude, I can't even
making it rain, man.
I can't even get back into that mode. I can't, because it's so dark. It really is a darkness, and it really is a dark power. I mean, to teach people and to believe it yourself, because I'm like you, Rex, and we used to do some of the same things. We had to believe in what we were doing to be able to be effective at it. And I really believed that there was a God that, even though he created all of us, he was going to throw most of us into this lake of fire. And I believed it, man. You've got to turn or burn. You've got to repent. He came to die for you, but he's not above barbecuing you if you won't accept his offer. And I believed it. And then all of a sudden I started thinking, wait a second. If God made all of us and the way is narrow and there's few that go in, and hell is enlarging itself, they got to build on to hell. The timeshare in hell has to be built on, has to have new phases because there's so many people going there. And heaven is so little that they're condensing it because it's just a little tiny path. I'm thinking that God's a failure. If he made all these people and they're all ending up in hell, and there's just a few of them that are ending up in heaven, I'm like, wait a minute, that God would be a failure. And I knew in my heart that the real divinity of the universe wasn't a failure. And that's one of the things where I started thinking, something ain't right here.
You make some great points. And also, let's talk about this soul farm possibility and on Mars. Now, Mars, the planet of war. I think Mars is awesome. I mean, for some reason, I've always had some very just strange syncs with Mars. Like, there's places out in Utah that remind me a lot of Mars. Like, go to the Canyonlands, go to Island in the Sky, go check out the Arches, go check out Monument Valley. That's like, that's pretty cool. But total
Heidi says you were there too.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I'm definitely not turning that thought down. But for those out there that maybe hell, I don't know. There's really not a non-conspiratorial way to put this. You bring up Soul Farm, that sounds like a conspiracy. So I was trying to say, let's talk about this in the most rational way possible, but it's not going to happen. I mean, this is pretty far out. So let's get into it. Like the Soul Farm, Mars, how is there a connection? Is it a physical? Is it like a giant cube out there that literally finds a way to grab somebody's soul as it leaves the physical body into the astral realm, and it like sucks it in and then it shoots it back out? So that's why people see these tunnels when they go into when they're, I don't know, where do you go with that?
I think you're really close on. Let's take Mars out of the equation for right now. Let's just talk about Earth. And let's just talk about, I mean, I know you have viewers from all over the world. Let's talk about Western religion. Let's talk about Abrahamic religion. Let's talk about Judaism. Let's talk about Christianity. Let's talk about Judaism, Christianity, Islam. There were no monotheistic religions until Judaism and maybe Zoroastrianism came in maybe 10,000 years ago. So this whole idea of only one God, you're a sinner, you got to find a savior, that's Johnny-come-lately in human cultural terms. I also have an associate's degree in anthropology. So it's Johnny-come-lately. So we're taught from the time we're babies. Some of you are getting sprinkled as babies. I mean, you're taught from the time that you're a baby that you're either going to go to heaven if you're good, or you're going to go to hell if you're bad. So you're living your life, and you know what you do. You know if you're good, you know if you're bad. And of course, he's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's going to find out who's naughty and nice. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake. Is that God? Is it Santa? I don't know. But you know this whole thing. So when you get ready to die, Rex, I mean, it's your day. And you breathed your last. Here's what happens. And we're having, by the way, December 10th, Clearwater, Florida, What to Do After You're Dead gathering. Heidi Vandenberg will be here as well. So this is very practical stuff to me. I mean, Rex, we all believe we're a spirit that just happens to be in this body right now. And we know that this life is not much. And the big thing is after, but none of us talk about what to do after we die. None of us have any training on that. But anyway, so you're dead, and here's your choice. Okay, you're dead, and you leave your body. If you think you've been a really dirty, rotten person and deserve to go to hell, there's a spirit out there that is going to lead you into a place that is in line with your expectations. And that's a soul farm. There's a hell soul farm. There's entities that feed on fear and grief and terror. Now, if you think you're a good person and should be sitting on a cloud playing a harp, there's entities after you die that will lead you into a place that is in accordance with those beliefs. And you can be in a heaven soul farm because there's beings that feed on high feelings and, erotic feelings and, unicorn feelings and rainbow feelings. So in a short little microcosm, that's really what's going on. When you leave your body, you get directed to a place that is commensurate with what you expect to go into. So other beings can continue to feed off of you. And the apostles of the Christ himself used to go into those places spiritually, and I do it myself, and wake up people that have been deceived while here on the earth and deliver them from soul farms. So it's not only just helping people on earth, it's helping people in soul farms. Brother, trust me, they're real. I go into them all the time, and I might even have ran one at one time. So in a small little microcosm, that's the reality.
What do you think about the different books of the dead? Because you've done some pretty solid research in not only the Egyptian, but the American Book of the Dead also.
Well, Rex, again, I have to, and it sounds like I'm being, sucking up, but it was you that caused me to start to look at those, as you were looking at some of the Book of the Dead. And I'm hearing you talking about Hungry Ghost Realm and Pac-Man Munching Realm and all this stuff. I'm like, I got to get into that stuff. So I started reading the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I started reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I started teaching on those a little bit, but the concepts were so hard for a Western mind to get. So I started looking, is there a Western Book of the Dead? And I find this guy, the American Book of the Dead. It really should be called the Western Book of the Dead. And it takes the concepts of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the concepts of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and kind of puts it in language that is more accessible and understandable to the Western mind. I don't agree with everything he says. There's also a great book that was called A War in Heaven, I think. And then there's the Divine Secret Garden series. So trying to cobble all of this information together, I don't think there's any doubt. Even the people that are hardcore, born again, even the people that got saved in my revivals and are still living for Jesus, they believe that the bulk of life is after this place. So what's the harm of teaching people what to do after you're dead? And shouldn't that be one of the main things we teach people? And that's all those books of the dead are Rex, are attempts by people to help people understand and prepare what to do. Because, brother, once you're dead, that's not the time to try to prepare. You got to prepare this side of the of death. And the whole thing, Rex, is this: not for Jeff Daugherty to teach you what to do, where to go, or who to go with. But what I try to do is get you to a place with my teachings on this and other subjects to get you to the place that when you die when you die in this life, that you have sovereignty and you have freedom to choose where you're going to go next. I try to get you divine, sovereign, and free in this life too. I try to get you to unindoctrinate yourself in this life, but this is minor. My work is done is when you close your eyes and breathe your last breath and your spirit leaves this body, if you have the ability and the cognition to be sovereign and free to make your own decision of where you want to go instead of go where something else wants you to go, brother, that's all I'm here for.
And also, Jeff, you've done several podcasts on Helena Blavatsky, and I've read through some of her work, very, very, in my opinion, ahead of her time. And it's interesting because people that don't know much about her seem to kind of attack her immediately and call her a Luciferian or a Satanist. What's your take on Helena Blavatsky?
Well, Rex, you're so right, because that's what people do. If you're in control of a monolithic, top-down, bureaucratic religion, you don't want people thinking outside the box. And if you've got a bunch of people that think that they're filled with original sin, that they have to have salvation, and you've got the only savior in town, that's what you want them to think and believe. You don't want them outside of that paradigm. So you tell them magic is bad. You tell them tarot is bad. You tell them astrology is bad. You tell them H.P. Blavatsky is bad. You tell them Manly P. Hall is bad. You tell them Rex Bear is bad. You tell them Jeff Daugherty is bad. You tell them Heidi Vandenberg's bad, because you don't want anyone to think outside the box. Now, do I believe everything that Helena Petrovna Blavatsky believes? No, I don't. I don't know if I believe 50% of what she teaches, but I know that if you read through her works, you'll find at least once every page something that you say, wow, that's profound. That helps me. When I read through Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, do I believe everything about Manly P. Hall? No, but I might believe, if I believe half of Blavatsky, I might believe 70% of Hall, maybe. And every half a page, I say, oh, wow, there's something there that I can use that helps make me more divine, realize the divinity that's in me, helps make me more sovereign, realize I'm in control of my own deal here. I'm the boss of me. I can do my own do. And it gives me freedom to realize, you know what? I can actually, not only can I play this game myself, but you know what? I got a good shot at winning this thing. It gives me hope. It gives me inspiration. And it empowers me to think, you know what? I'm not filled with original sin. You know what? I am not a dirty, rotten piece of garbage. You know what? I don't need somebody else to save me. I don't have to wonder. I don't have to worry. Did I pay enough? Did I go to church enough? Did I mumble enough prayers? Did I count enough beads? I can know. I can access it within me. I'm a classic American. That's why I voted for Trump. One more chance at the real America. I'm a my own pull up my own bootstraps kind of guy. And these people, Blavatsky, Hall, the real teachings of the Christ, they empower me to be in charge of my own deal, to be the boss of me. And I don't know why I keep screaming, Rex. I try to calm down. I try to just, be calm, but for some reason it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's boring anyway. And you probably wouldn't be on the show more than once if you were calm all the time. I wouldn't want you back on. Unless you're you are extremely knowledgeable. It's just a lot funner to have, some passion there behind it, and people enjoy it in the live stream as well. So no.
Oh, I bet.
Keep that going. Now, so can you tell us more about she talks about the moon, right? Blavatsky, and kind of her metaphorical position towards that, the moon matrix or something like that. What can you tell us about that part, or are you familiar?
I can't really speak to that because I've read through it, but I haven't really spent a lot of time diving deep into it. Now, did you put this up in the chat, Rex? Did you want me to talk about that?
No, I just wanted to, I just for that moment. Now, this right here in the chat. Yes. He's asking about something else. Yeah.
About the half-breeds?
Yes. Norman is asking a question. This is for you, Norman. Yeah. You want to answer that and reference that? Great.
So Norman is asking about the hate towards the half-breeds in the Bible. Are the created slaves the half-breeds? Are negative blood types the full breeds? That's a great question. And I've had medical doctors come on my channel and talk about Rh negative. And there's probably as many opinions about Rh negative as there are medical doctors that you bring on your show to talk about it. And I know this is not something that's a popular thought, but after all my research and all of my study, I don't think the Bible, Rex, ever once talks about a actual supernatural being impregnating a human woman. I don't think it's not taught in the text of the Old Testament or New Testament. I can promise you that. They want you to believe that it is, but it's not taught. And I am convinced after exhaustive study that the book of Enoch, I know you probably don't agree with this either. I'm convinced that the book of Enoch with the watchers and everything was a forgery.
Well, if it's a forgery, though, who forged it?
Well, you know the story of how it came to be. I mean, that was you talk about Blavatsky and all those people in Victorian England. I mean, that was the what's the cup that Christ drank out of called? The Holy Grail. Everybody wanted to find this book of Enoch because it was just the big thing. And I mean, if they had YouTube back then, everybody would have been talking about the book of Enoch. So there's this researcher, and I forget his name right now. It escapes me, but he went to find the source of the Nile. He was a big adventurer. He was, a really, kind of a Indiana Jones type of interesting guy who just happened to be able to read and write the Ethiopic text. So he goes searching for the Nile. He's gone, I think it was 7 years. And after he comes back, he has not one copy, Rex, but he's got 2 copies of the book that nobody could find. And dude was able to read and write it himself. And then all of a sudden, he was struggling before he left. Now he's dining with kings. He's the toast of society. He's super famous. So I think that's how the book of Enoch got written. Dude wrote it himself and brought back not 1, but 2 copies. That's what my studies led me to conclude. Of course, that's just my opinion. And opinions are like feet. Everybody has 2 and most of them stink, right?
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with that. I've seen there's people that have 3, 4 feet, I mean, the genetically modified creatures that come out of some of those laboratories.
And they don't all stink. I've actually smelled some feet that were quite enjoyable.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Jeff Daugherty, Christian whistleblower. Now, let me ask you this then, because you look at the Anunnaki, you look at the ancient Sumerian tablets. I'm not talking Zechariah Sitchin, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking, you look at these ancient tablets that are stories that can go back 20,000 years, maybe even 250,000 years or more. How
can people believe that Zechariah Sitchin started those? They were way before Zechariah Sitchin.
He has his own interpretation about certain things. And you know what? I've even read his book, The 12th Planet, and I don't agree with his description of the May. He talks about the May being something that Isis can use, that Isis and Nana use to travel the stars as some type of spacesuit. And I think the May is actually the DNA that makes you, me, the May, the me. That's my opinion. But
he lost me when he tried to tell me the Hashem, which clearly means the name, was a rocket ship. I'm like, bro, no, it's not. And it's not. Why are you trying to sell me that stuff?
Well, I mean, and then Nibiru, whatever Nibiru is, I have a friend that has a cat named Nibiru, and I think that I'm okay. Well, that's a whole other podcast. I had something that I was wanting to talk about, though.
Sorry about that.
That's right. No. Okay, this is where I was going. So the Enoch talks about these extraterrestrials that come down or fallen angels, whatever, that have sex with women, and then you've got this extra, the Nephilim, these giant beings. Mm-hmm. Well, what about the the other stories from other places around the world that talk about similar things in just a little bit of a different light, but basically the same thing. These extraterrestrials come down, they're superior, the gods come down, and then they give kingship. So even the people in power now, if you look at the bloodlines and you take it back to the pharaohs of Egypt and before, guess what? Where they supposedly got their power from was extraterrestrials. What's your take on that?
Remember, I'm the Christian whistleblower, Rex. I deal with the biblical text. And who's calling me? Let me.
That's the men in black right now. They said you've said too much.
I'm just trying. I wish I could get rid of that thing here. Decline, abort.
Exit.
Abort. Jeez. So all I'm saying is, all I've studied and all I know is that the biblical texts don't teach that supernatural beings had sex with human women and produced other beings. Now, as for what other great epics teach, it's an interesting discussion. But, I heard, people talk about these beings were as big as a house and they were super tall. And I'm just thinking how the logistics work, Rex. If it's as tall as a house, what would the size of its sexual organ be? And how's it going to work with a human woman? I'm like, I don't get how that could work. So I'm a little bit dubious about that. All I'm saying that I know for sure is the Bible doesn't teach it. Do other texts do seem to teach it? Is it real? Maybe. I think it's probably more talking about gene splicing and, DNA mixing. Because let's face it, brother, if you're as tall as a house and your sexual organ is in commensurate size to your stature, how are you going to have sex with a human woman anyway?
That's some pretty freaky stuff right there, Jeff. Now, Derek says, Jesus died for your sins. He uses the broken man, not righteous. Jesus loves, Jesus saves. Read Bible, pray to Jesus daily. I'm unsubscribing.
Well, I'm sorry for that, Rex. I hate for that to happen on your channel, but you know what? Derek has the right to believe that. And I served 6 years in the United States Air Force. I was over in, foreign countries. I was in a plane that took fire. I have literally put my life on the line to support Derek's right to believe that. And I fully support Derek's right to believe that. He's got the right to believe all of that. But I also believe Derek has the right to get all of the information about what the Bible's really about, what it really teaches, what the message of Jesus and Paul was, and what the message of the Christ was. And Derek has the right to evaluate all of that information. And Derek has the right to make his own decision. If he wants to, that's what I believe.
And that's awesome. And you know what, Derek, may the force be with you, man. God bless you. And maybe we'll see you again. And, anybody out there that might get a little bit offended or upset about this, I think that might be something that how do I put this to be as nice as possible? If you are being irritated by something, maybe there's a reason. Maybe your mind is like going, wait a second, this is making sense. Yeah, but everything's Jesus. And I get it. If that's, I used to be that guy. And once you break out of these layers of control, like Jeff said beautifully just a few minutes ago, you start a religion. This religion becomes authorized. If you don't follow this religion, then you will literally be burnt at the stake. Now, I'm talking about the Christian religion that was started by the Vatican. Think of the witch trials. If you didn't, the Pope could say, that's a demon. Oh, that's the devil himself. I want his land and his women will be given to the slave masters, to the guards, etc. And, I find it very offensive when people leave comments on my YouTube channel because of the color of my skin. And I will do a podcast on President Trump. They'll call me a racist. First of all, I never even bring up pigmentation of somebody's skin. Just because the pigmentation of your skin might be darker than mine, I could care less. I have much more important things to look at. People will say, you should be punished for the slaves of Africa because your ancestors were slave owners. No, my ancestors were not slave owners. They didn't have that kind of money. And you know what? I have Irish roots. Okay. You want to know what happened to the Irish and the English? Okay. If you were going to get married back in the day and you were Irish, guess what the English nobleman could do with your wife before you got married? Okay. So I take a lot of offense, actually. It really, man, just thinking about that, the energy right now, talking about screaming, man, that hair standing up on parts of my body I didn't even know existed. That's where ignorance comes in mind. You know what? 20 years ago, I don't even think people really care. It seems like this race card is being played a lot more now than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, haven't you noticed that in the media? It's ridiculous.
See, Rex, the thing to me is, and people tell me this every day, Jeff, you're too nice to we call trolls. I'm not, I don't want to put everybody in that category, but you're too nice to the people that attack you. You're too nice to the trolls. You're too nice to people like Derek. But the reason I am, Rex, is because there was a time when I would have written a message just exactly like that one that Derek did. I would have written that. And I know that when I would have written that, I would have written that out of a place of fear, because you know what? I realized that everything that I've always believed, I realized that everything I built my life upon, I was starting to see the cracks in the foundation. And when you start to realize that everything you've always believed isn't true, the first thing that a lot of people do is react out of fear. So I would have written an email just like that out of fear. But it's very well could be that Derek Couch is having his life flash before his eyes, and he's realizing maybe everything I've been taught isn't exactly right. And hopefully Derek Couch has more integrity than Jeffrey Daugherty did, because it took me 7 years to get out after I knew I should get out. So hopefully Derek will fare better than I did.
And Derek, seriously, may the force be with you. Wish you the very best. And let's see here also. Anything else that the audience, there's been some questions, but it's just going so fast. I'm trying to find these questions. Do you want to share a little bit more time with us, Jeff, or do you need to get rolling here? Because I know you've got your own program.
I do not need to go. I'm at your pleasure, Rex.
Cool. Let's take some questions from the audience.
Let's do it. And let me just reiterate, Rex. I'm not here to try to tell anybody what to believe. My goal and my mission is to get out as much information as possible about the biblical scriptures, about the parabiblical scriptures, so everybody has as much information as possible to make their own decision. And my catchphrase is unindoctrinate yourself, be your own guru, guide your own spirit, master your own ascension. And that's really what I'm all about.
Absolutely. Question everything. Knowledge is key. And so let's see here. Any questions, you guys? There's a lot of people are saying this is great, much appreciated. Good show. Jeff knows his stuff.
But Rex, the big thing to me is, even if it all does go dark and Skynet takes over and it's Mad Max times, we can still be the virus. We don't have to quit. We don't have to surrender. Never give up. Never surrender. Resistance is not futile. As long as you've got a few of us, and maybe we can all find Rex's place up in South Dakota and reorganize and rebuild humanity from a bunker in the middle of South Dakota somewhere. And I'm thinking seriously about getting me one of those, Rex. I really am.
Dude, once you go out there, I'm telling you, it's just so beautiful. There's places in South Dakota like the Badlands, the Black Hills. It's just a pristine area. Now, winter times, I'm warm-blooded, so I like it out here in Texas during the winter when it's 80, 90 degrees. I don't want to be in 30 below. But I'll tell you, at least I know that if things get really bad in the city, I can be in a location that I don't have to worry about 4G, 5G towers, pine trees that look like pine trees, but they're really high-emitting EMF machines. This question's from Gary. Gary says, is Earth ascending?
Is Earth ascending? That's a great question, because from my studies and my beliefs and my convictions, I think that the Earth itself is a sentient being. And if it is a sentient being, and I would say if she is a sentient being, then certainly she would be ascending as well as all of the other sentient beings. So I would have to say, yes, the Earth is ascending. What would your take on that be, Rex? I'd be interested.
Depends on your definition of ascending. I think that there's a pocket of people that are becoming more aware, and it's happening at a lightning fast pace. And I feel that there's still a huge the majority, the 85, 90%, maybe even up to 92, 93% of the population, I feel is zombified. They're literally mummified caterpillars, and they're done. They're mouth breathers. And
so if we ascend out of this realm, then maybe the planet can ascend out too, and we'll just leave behind what's left behind.
I don't know. And with that said, even those zombified caterpillars. I still love you guys. You're great. And hopefully you'll get out of there. But my honest opinion, I think that most people, they don't want to be a part of the solution. They just want to live their comfortable lives. They don't want to worry about people thinking weird things about them. Like, oh my gosh, that guy's a conspiracy theorist. How dare he? Oh, that guy. Oh, he doesn't believe in Jesus. He's the devil himself. I'm never going to buy anything from him again at the gas station that he works at. Come on, man. Really? Yeah. Snap out of it. If you can make it through the Jeff Daugherty Christian Whistleblower channel, if you can make it through Leak Project, you can make it through just about anything. Okay. This is like special forces. You're next level if you can do this. It's a trip.
The nice thing about you and I, Rex, is we do, we put out some heavy stuff, but we at least keep a little bit of fun and frivolity and a little levity going.
Don't get too serious. I mean, people that get too serious, you know what one of the number one causes of dis-ease is unrelieved stress.
That's right.
So you're gonna be uptight all the time. You're gonna walk around and your butt's gonna squeak like quack. Like you're kind of the person that's always dealing with your bills and issues and then blaming everybody else for your problems. I mean, if that's your life, hey, I get it. But people that can actually maybe just relax a little bit. If things are bad, well, hey, joke about it. Make people aware, but at least if you can have a little bit of a humor and not just freak out about everything, I think you'll probably live longer. You'll probably live happier. Maybe people don't want that. I don't know. Maybe they want to be pissed off and uptight.
Sad. There's a better way.
And what would that way be, Jeff?
Just like you said, life's a game. Smile, have fun, get outside, get out of the conditioned air. Take your shoes off, get on the ground, get in contact with the earth, get out there when the wind's blowing, the sun's shining, and actually live like a actual real being and not someone that's shut up in a maze and in a box for their entire life. Get out there and live and eat, drink, and be merry. Have some fun. Smile a little bit, man. The old saying, it takes a lot more muscles to frown than it does to smile. I don't know if that's true or not, but smile anyway.
Yeah, it's another thing too. This is a great question. This question's from Hannah. I've wondered this before. How do you feel about this, Jeff? Hannah wonders, would you recommend going towards the light to find the light in your heart? Or no, okay. Going toward the light of find the light in your heart so the soul farm doesn't snatch us. I think she might have said a word wrong in there.
Here's what I recommend. I recommend that you study the afterlife plane. You study the after death plane. I recommend that you read, that you study. I recommend that you get a real knowledge of who you are, that you really get a knowledge of yourself so that when you do leave this body, you'll see that light. And then you'll ask yourself, does that light feel right for me to go to? Or does this way seem better for me to go to? You'll get to the place where you can trust yourself. You can trust your intuition. I call it your blink. And I believe that you are divine. You are sovereign. You are free. You do have the spark of divinity within you. And if you develop it while you're living, you'll know when you get done. And you won't have to ask some crazy long-haired ex-Pentecostal evangelist what you should do. You'll know what you should do. That being said, personally, I don't think I'd go towards the light. But I haven't seen that light yet, so I have to evaluate when I get there, right?
Let me see here. Let me find another question.
Generally speaking, the light is, most experts say the light is a trap. So, but don't let yourself get programmed to that. Oh, I'm not going to the light, because what if the light is where you want to go? Get to the place where you can make your own decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key point. Make your own decision. Use your own intuition. What feels right for you?
Exactly.
And then, you could question, well, am I feeling what's right? Am I being tricked by the feeling? How well do you know yourself? And that's one thing that you brought up earlier. These books that teach about the afterlife, the next level, do you want to read them when it's too late? Is it going to matter then? Why not get the knowledge now so that you can be that astute individual that's got a higher level of consciousness because you exercised and you worked for it? You can't just go out and compete with people in the Tour de France if you ride a bike once a week. And if you don't, I mean, those guys are working 12, 16 hours a day on their bikes, eating right, and they're doing exactly what they need to do to be at the very top of that sport. It's the same with you want to be somebody that can use your mind and create your own reality, or you just want everything to be given to you?
I can guarantee you this. Your knowledge of the NFL, Major League Baseball, the Kardashians, General Hospital, that's not going to help you in the after-death state. So you might want to consider turning off the tube every now and then and picking up a book and getting some knowledge that might actually help you. I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm not saying don't go to the movies. You know, Rex and I talk about movies. We go to the movies. But we also know when it's important to get some real knowledge and information that's going to expand our mind and give us options. That's part of being divine. That's part of being sovereign. That's part of being free. It's part of having options, and it's part of being able to trust yourself, because you say, I've read about this, or, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. And it just gives you information. Information is power.
Information is power, Jeff. And you know, it's funny, you watch Stranger Things. Have you seen the full series now, season 2?
I got to tell you something really weird. I love watching Stranger Things, the first series, but that little girl, you know, the main little girl, she reminds me so much of my daughter, my oldest daughter at that age. And I literally, Rex, I would break out in tears when I saw that little girl being mistreated. So it took me so long to be able to watch it, because I would see my daughter Charity, and I would literally just begin to cry because she was being so mistreated. So it was really tough for me to watch it. I have hesitated watching chapter 2 or season 2 because of that reason. So is it a little bit easier to watch as far as where she's concerned?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay, good. Then I'll watch it.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend watching it. And there's also, the reason I brought it up is there's this one part in particular where Will is one of the main characters, and he gets...
Yeah, I know who he is. I watched it. It was just tough for me.
Yeah, and his birthday is 3/22, March 22nd. Now, 3/22 is obviously the infamous Skull and Bones. Yep. And you know, I think it's interesting when you know certain keys and numerological, you know, certain numbers to look for and stuff like that. They'll kind of put it out there, and you're like, "Whoa, yeah, I just picked up on that." And
plus, it's a 7, so
yeah, it's a very powerful series. You know, it's a lot of the MK Ultra stuff that was done in the 70s and even the 80s, and probably still to this day. I feel that they've kind of glorified it a little bit in the series, but there's definitely a lot of truth to it.
Rex, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You're obviously an optimistic guy. You're a guy that's full of life. You're a guy that's full of joy. You're a guy that, you know, is full of, you know, you just have a real zest for life. And I've asked George Norrie this question too, because I mean, you get such an amount of information thrown your way, and you hear the worst, the scariest, the nastiest. What is it that allows you to maintain such a positive zest for life when you're being bombarded by all of this stuff that would literally scare the hell out of most people?
That's a great question. It's like the more knowledge I get, the more alive I feel. It's you know, just always going, always on the move, always flowing. And maybe I feel hope, and I see kindness somewhere. I feel that even though I've been, I'll tell you, yeah, it's a great question. I've had enough personal experiences where I have literally been saved by something. I shouldn't be here. I should literally be at the other side, and I'm here. And there's been so many times that's happened, so many synchronicities that have presented themselves to me, so many times the universe, divine providence, God, whatever name you want to give it, has shown me something that proves to me that there is hope, and difference is happening right now. I see it every single day. So even though it's just that 7%, well, that 7% is making up for the other 93%. And how cool is that?
I agree with you 100%.
And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give Jeff a huge thank you again for coming on the show. The Christian whistleblower, Jeff Daugherty. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to his channel today. Also, click that link for the VPN Virtual Shield, less than $5 a month. This thing is awesome. If you want to keep your information safe from big data spies when you surf the web, check it out. Click the link, $5 a month. Use the code LEAKPROJECT. They're even offering a free 30-day trial. That is my shameless plug. Thanks, Jeff. It was awesome.
Plus, it'll give you a dynamic IP address. You don't have to worry about getting the mark.
Yeah, like we had earlier, you can surf various IPs, and then that way you're not in one prison cell. What did Jeff call that, or what did Wayne
called it? The IP address was individual prison, I think he said.
Yeah, the individual prison number, your IP, your individual prison number. So, all right, everybody, be the change you want to see. Oh, I just have to turn this off. Thank you for your service, because you were actually in the military. You served and I did not. So this is, I feel honored to have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff. I feel just so lucky that I can go there and share that information with you guys. So thank you. That means a lot to me.
My pleasure. It's like I said, it's always an honor to be here with you.
Let's get into the good stuff now. I mean, what inspired you earlier today? You did a live show. You do live shows every single day on your channel as well. The Jeffrey Daugherty Christian Whistleblower channel on YouTube. The virus, which came first? Did we come first, or the virus? Or are we the virus?
Or are we the virus? That's the question. You know, you just had Wayne on. That was a show. I enjoyed that. Wayne and I do a couple shows together a week. And Wayne, you know, is talking about, you know, the AI taking over, and, you know, and talking about how things are, you know, getting, you know, scary. And a lot of people in the chat room were concerned. And I'm glad that there's people out there. Of course, that's his background. He's been in that genre, in that industry. So it's important that we have people that know things about things to sound alarms for us and to call our attention to things. That's why I like your show. You identify problems, you identify situations, and you go out with your meters and let us know, you know, what we need to be aware of. You know, let us know about what we're eating, what we're drinking, what they're putting into our food. You bring on a lot of different guests, and you know, I that's what I appreciate about you. You're a lot like George North. Fighting with you, we want to give you a gift. It's this beautiful horse, just a beautiful giant carved horse. It was majestic, and the Trojans were like, oh, that's great, you know, bring it in. And they brought it inside the city, and then the guys left, and everybody got drunk, and we got them. They're giving us gifts now, and of course there were dudes inside the horse, and they came out of the horse and, you know, slaughtered a lot of people, opened the city gates, and they actually, inferior force was able to defeat a superior force by use of subterfuge. And of course, now we have what you call a Trojan virus in IT terms, internet technology terms. And it's something that acts like it's benevolent, but it actually will, once it gets into the system, will go throughout the system and actually bring down the whole operating system. So even though you use the internet, I use the internet. All of us that are on YouTube, we use the internet. We use it all the time, and we look like we're just users. We're just here doing our thing. We're just here making our shows. We're just here watching American Gods. We're just here watching iRobot. We're just here watching Stranger Things. We're just harmless little fuzzballs. But I believe that we have the potential, Rex, to be the virus. Be the virus. I am the virus. We can go in here looking like we're not doing anything. We're just doing YouTube videos, but we can give the information out that will allow people to look with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Elite Project, how the heck are you? We have Jeff Daugherty with us, the Christian whistleblower, the man, the legend, the way of life. And we're going to talk about something a little bit more inspirational in this presentation than just the fear factor. We're going to look at some opportunities of hope and how to keep the balance. And as Jeff said just a moment ago, now is the time to work even harder and not give up. So I'm not going to take away his thunder. Jeff, it's awesome to have you on the show here. I'm so glad that we got together today. How the heck are you?
Man, I'm feeling good. You got me riding the bike more. You've been an inspiration there, so I'm feeling a lot better. And speaking of inspiration, Rex, I just wanted to, if I had a hat on, I would take it off to you for, you know, going out there and being, you know, on the ground, using your time, your money, putting your butt on the line and going over there to the site of the shooting and reporting for us live. And I know you get these people that say, well, he didn't do it the way I would do it. Well, that's because you didn't do it. And Rex was out there doing it. So, you know, I salute to you for being out there and being, you know, putting yourself on the line and doing what we're all supposed to be doing. And of course, I know you don't listen to the chuckleheads, but I just want to give you props and say, way to go, Rex. That was inspirational. And we appreciate everything you're doing, cutting edge information and helping build the community. It's a pleasure and an honor to know you and to be here.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I mean that.
But my thought is that I'm not convinced that an AI has taken it over yet. I'm not convinced that it is a God that has got us all cloned. I'm not convinced that we've all been assimilated yet. But the fact of the matter is that we could all be assimilated. The possibility exists, maybe for the first time, for something like that to happen. And a couple of things go through my mind is, number one, why does it want to assimilate? Why do they want to create all of this artificial life? I mean, they want to put us in bodies we can live forever. And Rex, I think that you would probably agree that, are they putting us in these bodies because they love us so much? Do they want to put us in these, artificial bodies because they want to end all pain and all hunger, and they want to end and let us extend our lives and be wonderful to us? I have a hard time believing that, but there might be another reason. And even if they do take over, and even if the Skynet does go active, and we're all under the domain of an artificial intelligence, I'm reminded of many, many years ago, the Trojan horse. You know the story of the Trojan horse, right?
Are you talking about the Spartans?
I am. The Spartans were in a big war with a superior power. They couldn't breach the walls of the city. So they said, you know what, guys, we're sorry for you in respect, because George Norrie brings on a guest, and some people hammer him. He's not tough enough on the guest. He doesn't, hammer him, but he's trying to get that guest to give out their information so that the audience can understand it. And I feel like you do that a lot too. Just because you have someone on doesn't mean you agree with everything they say. You're trying to get them to get out their message. And a lot of people don't get that. Everything's not a hit job. Everything's not a competition. It's about, getting information out, and you do a great job of disseminating it. But saying all that to say this, Wayne paints a picture that is very, very possible. I mean, there are more than 8 billion connected internet devices right now in the world. That's more than there's people. I mean, that blows your mind. You got cities that are putting up pads on light poles because idiots are bumping into them while they're walking around on their cell phones. Literally, real stuff. People walking out into traffic and getting run over because they're on their cell phones. I might think that's purifying the gene pool, but that might be a little bit too harsh. But there is this very big, very real AI that is taking over, and it's becoming ubiquitous in our life. It's everywhere, and it's becoming more and more insidious. And I think Wayne makes some good points about us being in the internet. We're not really just, we can use it, we can, work with it, or we can really be used by it.